Hello everyone! In this short video, I wanted to wrap up the Advent of Logos 2023 in review, sort of. I wanted to talk about the things I learned about myself, my skills, and how to make logos. Let's begin. If you haven't seen any of the Advent of Logos videos, I will link them up in the cards here so that you can check them out if you want, of course. So, where did this Advent of Logos actually start from? The initial idea for the whole project was that I will be doing a dedicated practice of something design related. One of the things in design that I want to get good at, or at least to start being good at, is logo design. I think this is a very interesting thing to have good skills at. It has some thinking that is useful in, multiple probably other areas. So I wanted to practice making logos. This is why the Advent, or what I wanted to be an Advent, turned out to be for logos, obviously. And also, what does dedicated practice mean? Well, there is something that if you practice something with the intention of getting good at this particular thing, you do dedicated practice of that thing, right? So if you want to get good at jumping rope, you will do jumping rope, right? It's just as easy with design skills. If you want to get good at making posters, you'll probably have to do many posters to get good at it. If you want to do logo design, you will have to do many logos, and this is why we're here. So if you haven't seen the playlist has like 10 videos, but in the end I ended up with 9 logos because in one of the videos my friend gave me some feedback, and then in the next video I worked a little bit more on that logo to make it better. So it's sort of like one logo in 2 videos, but in any case, I did, let's say I did 9 logos all in all, which is still, I think, a good number for, someone who's just beginning. When I look at most of the logos that I created, I can see some things that you can basically maybe only see in retrospect after you've created all of this, if you don't have that much experience, that is. And what I could see in my logos is that I am making them very illustration based, or like very illustrative, which is sort of like, maybe it might help some customers, maybe that's what they would like. But for making logos, I know that it's good to simplify the shapes and not make them so illustrative, so that they can be easy to print, or, so that they don't lose some shape or line here and there when they print, or in very small places, even digitally. So this is something that I should work on in the future to make them less illustrative, if that's not what the actual client wants, of course. And another thing that I've noticed is that I make them too literal with the brief sometimes. Like, for example, day 2, the moth squash training videos. I basically just did a moth, right? Or, I mean, I know that the brief wanted it to be a mascot, but at the same time, I could have just done something else, right? And with day 8 and 9, the little bee logo was actually a bee, which in this case, I think it worked because the client really likes bees. So it was, I think it was a good idea to include the bee in both variations that I made. But being too literal with some briefs means that the logo might not look very unique. Like, if you thought of this shape or any design wise, it means that other designers have probably thought of it and have made one such as this one before, right? So for example, many logos that have to do with like shelters or pet stores or something like this, they probably have like a dog paw or something like this. But to be more unique and to be different than those, so that people can recognize your logo better, maybe you can utilize other parts like a tail of the dog, or maybe some ears or something. Nose, sniffing nose, something like this, that's not overused as much, right? For example, the logo for the Greenscape Solutions, which was day 7, I think I was too literal with the tree and the landscape or something. So maybe I could have gone another way. I just didn't have enough time, maybe, and I don't have the creative direction that maybe someone more experienced would give me if I'm working at a studio or design agency. Another thing that a person or a designer gave me feedback on is I need to have consistency between the logo and the fonts. So first of all, shape-wise, like the font and the logo should go well together, right? I mean, I've tried to do that. Obviously, most of the time, I'm trying to do exactly that. But sometimes, I'm just maybe missing an opportunity here and there because I don't really test that many fonts or something. So if it's a curved font or like straight edges font, it means that it will match that type of logo as well. Another thing with the consistency between logo and font is that it's good to have the same weight of stroke of the logo and the font, like at least for them to be sort of the same weight, so that they can go well together again. I noticed I use a lot of lines of like different weights, as in the stroke is bigger at certain parts and then it just thins out at the edges. I sort of like it like this, but I don't know if it's good for a logo, again, for the printing and the small sizes problem. Another thing is the slant. If I want to use maybe a little bit like slanted font or like italics or something like this, it should match a slant like this from the logo. Or if maybe the logo doesn't have such, I should probably rethink italic or the font if it's a little bit like italicized or whatever. Like, yeah, if there is a slant, it should be everywhere. This is one of the things I got back from my client in day 8. She gave me some feedback there that it's nice for the font to be slanted everywhere and to have sort of, it should go together with the logo, with the weight. Another thing that's really important when obviously you consider a logo is where is it going to be used, right? This is something that I really wasn't considering, even though in some of the briefs it was mentioned, like the first couple of briefs, it was mentioned that it will either be embroidered on a shirt or it will have to scale up to be like printed on the side of a car or something like this. Let's say also the diner logo would probably need to be made into like a neon sign or some other sign that will be big, and it will need to be with lights, shining lights and stuff. So this should also be considered when creating the logo. It should be made clear where the business wants to use the logo. Is it going to be only on business cards or like printed materials, or do you want digital social media pictures made with the logo and everything else, so that it should go on, the logos should work on both mediums. I think another thing also to consider is the company, or let's say, is your client big enough to have a lot of variations of the logo? As in, is it just like a nail salon that would only need like business cards and merch or something? Or is it a corporation that has presence, a bigger corporation that has, like the logo should work on an operating system or on your mobile screen where, your apps are located. Something like this, right? And they will have like print materials, like all kinds of stationery, papers, different types of papers, different types of materials, metallic materials, everything like this. Like all of this should be considered. And at this point, I have not considered any of this, probably because I know that neither of these logos will be used in real life, but also because I am just not experienced enough to know how it would look printed out on different materials. So yeah, at this point I don't know, but I will try to consider it for the future, definitely. And when we're talking about versions of a logo, I think it's also a good exercise to see the logo in like its negative version, right? Because in the for the Little Bee bridal logo, I did the outlined version and the filled version, if it's white on black and black on white. Obviously, if you start off making a logo, you should probably start in black and white regardless, but also make a negative version of it to see how it would look if it's mainly dark on bright surface, to be bright on dark surface, to see maybe where when printing there might be problems, or when it's scaled down a lot, some elements might get lost, stuff like this. This should also be considered, and I will be honest, I haven't considered them obviously, since I'm talking about it now. And also another thing that maybe will help me in the future is to have the logo type with some personalized letter or something else, and so the logo type could maybe work on its own, as in, like the T's might have like a swirl or something like this, something that would make the font a bit different. So it's not just Montserrat, but it is Montserrat as a base, and some of the letters are like touched up a little bit to match the brand, so that the brand name is recognizable in only the logo type. I do think some fonts work by themselves and they don't need touch-ups, but I think for some brands it might be more interesting to touch up some letters. I did do that for several of them. Maybe for, if you remember the Day 2, the moth one, I touched the O of moth to be a little bit different. And also for the Zen pause, and I touched up the last letters to be a bit like more playful or something. I think it turned out good, so I think this is a good strategy to do in the future as well. Right, so which one was my favorite? I think I have a lot of favorites. When I look at them now, even after I've passed through this challenge and I got all of this feedback and all of this experience, I do like a couple of them that turn out really good. So far, I still like them even though I see mistakes. But this is the Zen Pause one and the Quantum Innovations one. These are the two that probably turned out the best for me as the person who created them. Please let me know in the comments which one was your favorite. If you haven't watched the videos, maybe go see them. If not, some of the logos have been put here when I was talking about them. And what now? What now with this Advent of logos? Well, for this year it is done, as I've said before, but I do want to maybe make another one next year or revise this one next year. I hope that I will have more experience so that I can better speak about mistakes and improvements, and maybe making better versions of those logos, or maybe redesigning other logos as well. I think this would also be a good challenge for me, for brands that are already either big or at least they have some culture, some history that I could use, and all of this. So I will stop rambling now. And I really hope you enjoyed this Advent of logos. I'm sorry that it was short, but yeah, I'm still glad that I did go through this, and I'm still happy with the results. I hope that you like some of the logos. And if you try any of the briefs, please let me know. I will be happy to see what you have come up with. Probably better than what I did, so I want to see. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching, and have nice holidays. Bye!